Hello. I don't like to talk about religion, and I'm quite stressed talking about it, really, to be honest. But we do have a lot of religions in the world. My religion, where I come from, would be Christianity. I think that they are all pretty much the same, in the sense that they're all actually worshipping, shall we say, the same God. This is a bit of an illusion because, yes, there is really no real religion on this world. There's no Christianity, there's no Muslims, there's no Buddhists, there's no Hindus, there's no, all the religions I can't think of, no Buddhist, there's not even any atheists or agnostics, in other words, people who don't believe at all in a religion, or who doubt that there is like a God type force or whatever. In other words, they don't know. Agnostics don't know, I guess. They're saying they don't know. There's actually none of that at all. None of those things exist, I think. But in Christianity, we have a religion, I think, and I've got this from other sources, shall we say, and at this present time, I think that it holds up. I think that, for instance, I would say that the figure of Jesus Christ, right, has been hijacked for the Christian religion, but he really does not represent the Christian religion. He is the figurehead of it. He was a man who came, if you believe that he existed, and like I say, I'm not saying I do or don't, I would not know, but I'm saying that if he did exist as a real person and was here, and if he did exist, he probably was a real person. That's what I would say if I'm going to speculate. And he came here and said certain things, was trying to enlighten human beings, shall we say. Perhaps that would be how I would see it if he did exist. And for trying to enlighten them, he paid the price of being killed. That's assuming that even that happened, because I do not know if he existed or was killed. But then I think his actual image and the figurehead of Jesus Christ, the actual thing, was then hijacked by the religion as the focal point of their religion. In other words, he was used, his so-called teachings, or whatever it was that he did say, was used and put into the Christian religion, and he was then the figurehead of that religion, because they knew that he would be a good figurehead for that particular religion. And I think it's the same probably for all the religions, even though I do not know much about the other religions. I do not even know a real lot about Christianity, I have to admit. But that's what I think has happened, that if he existed, he was used that way, so he now represents a religion that he had nothing to do with, and that he probably would not endorse in any way. I'm laughing, but it's really not funny at all. I mean, I don't have religious beliefs, but I'm laughing at that. But it's actually not funny that a man could come to be on this planet like us and be just perhaps a bit more enlightened and be trying to preach a bit of good stuff to people and show them that what was around them was not good, perhaps, and therefore, he was not liked by perhaps the religion that was around at that time, or the setup that was around at the time. I do not know. I do not like to say powers or whatever. I do not know, because it was Rome, I suppose, or that type of thing. So I suppose it was a power, and they probably did not like that. I guess they saw it as a threat. Why, I'm not quite sure. Probably because if you're living the wrong way and someone is saying you're living the wrong way, well then that is, I suppose, a kind of threat to the setup that is, I guess. So I suppose that's probably what happened there. Even though the man himself, like from what I can gather, and like I say, I'm not real familiar with all the teachings and all, I do not like to look into it much, but I do believe that I remember it was one of the things saying that the man Jesus did say when he was asked about God and the government or Caesar, he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. And God. And by that I think he meant, because I don't think that he ever really said that he was Son of God or that there was a God as such, but that's just what I'm thinking, and like I say, you're probably not following it, and I have to admit that I find it confusing myself, because it's only just come to me and it's from information that I get, rightly or wrongly. And like I say, I lost my train of thought, sorry. When he said give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's, I think he was trying to say that Caesar and the government had all the power and all the money and all the stuff like that, and if that is theirs, you let them have it. It is theirs. It is their right. But give to God, and I think by God, I think he meant, how should I say, like give to God give to Caesar what is Caesar's, the material things, but give to God. Give to God what is God's, and that would have to be, as he was obviously a spiritual type of person, that must have been give to God, or do not give to Caesar your spirit. That is God's, and people give everything over to their false gods, to their religion. And I think he would have actually been against, I think probably he might have actually been against all religions, and he probably would not have wanted a religion to be started up in his name. That's what I think. I don't think that he would have endorsed Christianity, even though he is the figurehead of it, because he would have seen that Christianity does not really represent him at all. That it is, that some of his teachings are there in amongst all the rubbish, but there's more rubbish than good teachings, and it's so confusing and so muddled, like it's so much good and bad all mixed together, everything a contradiction really. Everything in the Bible is like a contradiction. So I don't think that he would have remotely wanted to be the figurehead of Christianity or any of the religions on this planet, and at the same time, I do not know. This is just what I think about him as a figure, as a person, if he existed. And what I'm really talking about is if there is any religion on this planet at the present time, and probably always, because I think it's always been the same, it's just that it is covered by all the religions are all the same. All the religions worship the same God, is what I'm saying. And that God is not a God of someone like Jesus Christ or any of those types of figures in the past. He is a different God altogether, and even atheists and agnostics worship this God too, even though they don't realise it, because if you're not actually looking for the truth, and you actually don't see the truth, and I'm assuming that there is a truth. In other words, if there is a creator and you don't see who that true creator is, and you use human beings as figureheads for that creator, which I mean, even the man Jesus Christ might not have minded that, because he would not have wanted to have been a figurehead, but at the same time he might well have been someone who was aware of the truth and was aware that there may have been a creator, but he was not the sole representative of that creator. He was just a man who was aware of this knowledge, and I think he was trying to tell human beings that they all are the same as him. God is in you, is what he was always saying. Not out there, not a religion, not a figurehead, not a effigy of some image of something, not a Buddha image, not any Hindu image, not any images. He was saying it's in each person. So he was saying that everyone is a piece of God, kind of. So that's what he was really. So actually, he was actually trying to empower human beings in a funny kind of way. But he was snatched after he went and used as a figurehead for this religion. And no doubt even some of the people who liked him and followed him did this, because they did not get it either. They actually started to see him perhaps as a little, because he was more advanced mentally, I think, more advanced than you and me mentally. I think that he could easily be interpreted that way, because if you see a human being that appears to know more and that appears to have more knowledge and appears to understand things more, you think that person is more connected, and they are more connected. They're more connected to the truth and to perhaps something, but they're not saying that they are the God. They're saying that that is just because they have developed to that level, and all human beings should be at that level, but we're all down here. I am too. Only difference is I'm aware of it. It's not funny. It's not funny at all. But that's the and a lot of magical disturbances around it. But that's what I think, and I could be wrong about this. So it's I'm just putting it out there. And but if you do say there are all these religions, I think that if we do worship, I think that everyone on the planet is worshipping one God, but it is not the gods that they think. They are worshipping one God. Now this God does control this earth completely, and he controls atheists, agnostics, and everyone, regardless of what you believe. There are a few people that seem to, shall I say, not so much be aware of this, but who do know the truth of what this world is. They still might not be enlightened to the extent of, say, what we would class as a man like, say, a Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not saying that I even know that he existed, but if what I am saying is that I'm using him as an example, right, because I don't want to really get into religion, but if he did exist, he was merely a man, a human being on this planet, the same as everyone else, who was telling people that by living a certain way, by seeking the truth, etc., you will attain a higher level of being. I think that's what it is, a higher level of being, and that level of being is a godlike existence. It's a superior existence. It's not the way we live. We live in a hell existence. We have created hell here on this earth. This is hell. There is no heaven and hell. This here is hell. We do not know it because we do not realise that we are imprisoned by the fact that we are down at the low level instead of being up at the high level. And the worst of it is that the further we have gone, we think we've advanced, so we think we've got higher. In actual reality, the people around even in so-called Jesus' time were probably more advanced than us, because at least they listened to him. At least some of them tried to listen to someone who was at least seeking the truth, because there was nothing wrong with the powers that be having their power and having their money if that is what they were able to get, because you can't stop that. It is freedom of choice. But but they had hijacked the minds of everyone, and people thought, people were at that level. Most of the race were at that lower level, because there's nothing wrong with material possessions, but if they rule you, and that is all you seek in life, and that's why I say that we have not progressed from even Jesus' time, because we've become more materialistic. So we are down at a much lower level than even back then. If Jesus was around today, I'm sure no one would listen to him at all. In fact, he would have been killed, I'm sure, a lot quicker than what he was back then even. At least he got to 32 then, or 33 or whatever it was. No, because... So this is what I'm saying, is that he was trying to say that, I think, and that it's not a matter of believing in specific gods, it's a matter of making yourself at a level that understands things and is more godlike, shall we say. And yet I don't like to say that, because to even use the word God is actually probably not a good thing. It implies worship and stuff like that, and even Jesus did not want people to worship him. He was just someone preaching what he knew to be true, and he was at a more advanced level mentally. He was using everything that had been given to him, everything that had been given to humans, whereas we are not using any of it. Now we're even less. We're using less because we actually think that we've advanced, and we use more, and because technology and because our lifestyle appears to advance, we think that we've mentally advanced as well, and that we are getting at a higher plane. In reality, we've become less than even back then, I think. We're not at a high plane at all. We've went more towards... And while we think, see, it's a funny kind of thing, because I think Jesus was telling every person that you're at a low level, but you need to get to a higher level. And so nowadays we have a situation where people think that they are God, that they, with the technology and they're ruling the world, and they've got control over things, that they are actually at that higher level. And they actually are pumped with this idea that, oh, human beings are important, we are important, we live in a very kind of narcissistic, is that the word that they use now, world, where everyone thinks they're important, everyone's empowered, women and men, they're all everything's in competition, we're all showing that we're intelligent, women have to prove they're more intelligent than men, men have to prove they're more intelligent. We've got so many conflicts. Everything is about proving that we are advanced and that we are intelligent, whereas in reality, I think that, that's not what it's about at all. We're supposed to be at that higher spiritual level. Now, that's another thing that's gone out the window, is spirituality. It doesn't exist in our logical, computer-driven world. And even I have lost contact with it. But I feel, and that's another thing, the feeling, what you feel and what you instinctively know is probably going to be more intellectual and more logical and more practical and more true than what you logically think when you start to analyse everything for a long, long time. This is what I think. And I think Jesus was saying that the truth is inside of you, the power is inside of you. But this is not the same power that we're living in the world today, where we get out there and say, oh, I'm powerful, I'm going to get the better job, I'm going to, particularly as a female, to say, oh, look, I can do the same as a man and I'm this and that. It's all competitive. It's not superior. It's not anything. It's all a conditioning. It's false. Men and women are meant to be in harmony. There should be no competition. There's no better or worse. They're different. And they're not meant to be the same. If they were meant to be the same, they would have been created the same. If androgynous was meant to be we would have been created androgynous. You know what I mean? It's like, and either way, that is still where you're feeling inferior because you're having to prove something. You're saying, I'm not good enough. Whereas instead of to say, we all just are. And we're all, that's what I think that's what it was meant to be all about. We all just are, and we all are. Yeah, we're kind of taught that from the Bible, but the Bible is all false. So it's there again. It becomes very confusing because in a way we were originally we did all have it, and we were perfect. We didn't have the competitiveness because we knew that we were all unique and all part of the special thing. We were all special, and we were all at the highest level we could be at anyway. So we had nothing to prove because we knew that we were at. We knew that we were. Superior is not the right word because superiority also implies that that you're better than something. Whereas in reality, it was just. I suppose it would have. I suppose in that kind of elevated state that I think even whether these people existed, these Jesuses or people existed, they were saying that at that kind of mental level of living, of existence, it's just pure bliss because there is no competition, there is no better or worse, there is just the pure existence, and that is perfect, and you can do anything. So that's another thing, because you don't have to prove anything because you know you can do anything. We can't do anything now. We've lost every power and whatever, every ability. Even I wouldn't even know what the abilities, how vast they would have been. But I think that's what we're saying. That's what I think the religion, these figureheads that they use, that they've been hijacked. I don't think that they represent their religions. Like I say, if Jesus was around, I think he would be horrified to see that there is a religion called Christianity built in his name, and that he is the figure. I think he would be absolutely horrified because if he say, look at my world, look at what the Christians have done in my name, he would say, this isn't what I came to tell you at all. And you're not meant to be going to church and looking at figures of me on a cross and all this stuff. Like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing at all. I was telling you to be individuals and to look inside yourselves. Nothing to do with God or religion. Do that and then you will find the truth. You will find the Creator in a way. But I do not know what that is, and I do not know the existence. I think that it was meant to be where we would know inside ourselves somehow. So I have not got to the bottom of that. There probably is even a scientific basis for it, even a technical basis, even a biological basis for it all. I do not know. I'm trying to say that, but he was saying God is in you. So if you just take a few things instead of the whole Bible and all the thing, and there may be history in the Bible. Look, the trouble is that there's so much truth meshed with disinformation that it's impossible. It's a minefield. You couldn't possibly find it. So I say just take the basic things and then see the truth. That's what I think, and that's what I'm now have just done. Even though I've never looked into religion and I'm not looking for this. It's just I've just seen the information. It's come to me and it fits. Now, I was saying that everyone on the planet does worship a God anyway, and it's all the one God. All the religions worship the same God. They just have different figureheads. They've hijacked different individuals or different human things from the past to represent that religion because they know that there is some good in people and that people will not, the average person will not follow what they would consider perhaps to be a negative God. So they have to have a figurehead that's positive, even though most of the message is actually negative. Now, that probably seems strange. So what I am saying is that, and yes, this is quite distressing in a way, but at the same time, people have a choice. And I'm saying that if people choose to worship this, that is their business and their choice. What I'm saying is be aware of it, because there are some people who are absolutely aware that they are worshipping a negative God. They are not worshipping even the good part of Christianity, and that good part is only very minor. The same with all the religions. There's only a small part that is actually good, because most of it is, if you look at how every race and every human being is acting on the planet. The religion cannot be good because otherwise human beings would be following the good example, the little bit of good that's in that religion, and they're clearly not, because if we've got people killing one another and people doing things that go really against the basis of their religions, then clearly the religions are warped. That you have to say that if you really look at it, like, and if you look at the history of all the religions, there's been more destruction caused in the name of every single religion down through the centuries than even in the regular, probably even the regular negative destruction in war and stuff. But actually, even that is often directed by religion, because if you weren't told, oh, this thing is good, this thing is bad, this country is good, this country is bad, or this people is bad, you wouldn't do that, because these people think that they think they're killing and destroying in the name of good. Would Jesus have went around killing people if he did exist, or any of these real figureheads? No. In fact, so it's kind of like it's if people just stopped and think, how can they be representing even the religion if they think it's a good one, if they're doing bad stuff? And they all are. Right this very minute, even in my own little local vicinity, the people that go to church are doing bad stuff, whether they acknowledge it. If they think that the end justifies the mean, in other words, if they think that it is good to destroy another human being because that is for the greater good, then they are wrong. They are doing against their religion. And if they had even common sense, even, they would recognise that. And they would have to. And if there really was that God that they believe in existed, they would already be condemned by that God. Like I say, Jesus would. These people would that are used as the figureheads for these religions would be horrified to think that they have been hijacked, because they never set up these religions. Jesus never set up a religion. He had no intentions of setting up a religion. He wasn't trying to do anything. He was just trying to wake up individuals, I think. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think. This is what the information that I am deciphering, shall we say, and I'm no genius, I'm not qualified, I'm not a scientist, I'm not educated, not anything. So take of it what you will, laugh at it if you want to, but think about it anyway. But anyway, I am saying that human beings are still worshipping a God. And when I say worshipping, they are bowing down to it. Worship means to bow down to, be subservient to. Jesus, even, if he was saying the power is in you, he was saying the opposite. Do not worship anything. Do not bow down. See, his ideas have been, not his ideas, but the few good things he said have been put in with a Christian religion that says, yes, I am a jealous God, bow down and worship me. You will have no other gods before me. That isn't what Jesus said at all. This is what the religion that his few little things, I think, have been hijacked and put into a religion that says all that. He was not saying you had to worship anyone. He was saying the power is in you. That's what I think. But in today's day and age, I don't think he was saying that means to be arrogant and to think that you're the most important person in the world. No, he wasn't saying that either. So it's kind of like, it's very hard to get this message across. I think I'm having a heart attack doing it, because actually, to be honest, like I say, this world is really not a heaven. It's not a heaven. It is not. It is. I do not think there is such a thing as heaven and hell. But the closest thing that you would have to hell is here on this planet, because we have been pushed down to where we are no longer human, and to where we are living at the lowest level, and we do not know it. Some people, because we are living in a very material world too, we think if we've got a flash car and if we've got a lot of money, that therefore we're doing okay, that therefore we've accomplished the best in the world. And look, that's neither good nor bad either. But if that controls you to where that's all you live for, and you are down at that lower level, then you've defeated yourself. And that's where we all are. I am too. The only difference is I and some others. There are others. There are people on this planet who maybe are at a spiritually high level, Unfortunately, I haven't met them, but I know they are there because they are the ones that are aware enough to at least be trying to spread a little bit of truth. But they're very few in comparison with this planet that's got 7 billion or 8 billion people or something. Their numbers would be quite small because this world is controlled and hijacked by the materialism and by a lifestyle to where humans who are meant to be at that higher level are now down here. And this is why I say we are living in this earth, this planet is hell. It is a hell. If there is any hell anywhere all over, and I do not know about what's around, or there again, that's a bit of a delusion too, but this is definitely a controlled hell where all human beings are suffering at a mental level, even if they're physically affluent. They're suffering at a mental level because they are living in a small box of what they should be. I've lived that for 60 years, and I've become aware of it, that I have been controlled by, not by religion, but still dominated by the ideas that are religious in some ways. Because whether you're an atheist, even if you're an atheist and agnostic, you are still influenced by the religions around you. You are still told what is good and bad. We live in this good-bad world where everything is either good or bad, and we have to think, we have to get rid of the bad. We have to get rid of the bad, and we decide what is the bad. And actually, we do not know what we're deciding because we are told what is good and bad. You might say, oh no, I've got a free mind, I'm a free thinker. I'm saying I do not have my own mind. I am mind controlled by this world, by a system. And if I do believe in any God, it is not the God that I'm looking at or the God that I think. That is a whole big setup. Every religion is a big setup. So it is like, if I am worshipping a God, we're all worshipping the one God. Now, all I would say is let's be upfront about it. What are we worshipping? We are worshipping a God that I think is negative, and is not really in conjunction with human beings elevating themselves. It's a material God. It's a very material God. It underlines all the religions, and it is. If you even want to then come back to religion, which I say that's a construct, it's man-made, but even man did not really decide it because he was under the influences of what was around him, shall we say. He's guided to construct these religions, guided to believe in them. And that is the real power behind this world. It is ruled by a type of God, I think. Certainly a very powerful force, an extremely powerful force that controls everything. And so that is the God of this world. Now, and we do worship him whether we know it or not. Like I say, even atheists and agnostics worship him because they live by that rule. They live in that world and they worship the material things that he has set up to entice us and to trick us and to take us away from becoming the superior, higher beings, the beings that we're meant to be at our full potential. I think this is why that's the only reason I mention people like Jesus, was because I think that was, if they did exist, I think that's what they were. If they were real, if they're a real human being, because that the whole thing could be a construct for all I know. He may not have even existed. But I think that it's if there is evidence enough there that he existed and if he was actually a real man, he had nothing to do with this Christianity religion or any of the religions on the world, and most of the stuff that is connected to his few true words is nothing to do with him. And that's why we are tricked into worshipping a religion with something good, because he was basically, I do not see anything bad in the actual few words that I've heard of a man called Jesus Christ and the actual thing that he was. I see nothing bad in that, but I see a lot bad in the whole world and in all the world religions. They have perpetrated more destruction and are still doing so in all our history, and it has always been the case for every religion and every time we have bowed down and worshipped something outside of ourselves. But at the same time, like I say, if you then say, oh well, agnostics and atheists are right, well that's wrong too, because they are not necessarily living at a good higher level. They're still living in the same world and acting no better and no worse than all the people who follow the religions. So that doesn't actually mean that because if I said, hey, I don't believe in those religions, that makes me that I know the truth, because that you could be even further from the truth than even them. So, but I'm saying that there is a so-called power that rules this world, and it is controlled by man, but it is also controlled by the worship of this power. Now, some people on this planet, for all I know, humans, might actually be directly worshipping it, but I think most people are indirectly worshipping it through every religion on the planet. In other words, they think they are worshipping a good religion. By good I mean that they think that it is all about love and all about that sort of thing, whereas in reality it is all about destruction and non-love and non-advancement of their human mind. This is what I think. So indirectly they're worshipping the true ruler of this planet, which is a God that if you directly perhaps worship this God, and it would be, if you believe in, and we are in a good-bad planet, an evil versus good planet, a good-bad, right-wrong, all that sort of thing, okay? Right, wrong, good, bad. That's the world we live in. That's what we're being conditioned to think is the thing, and it confuses us. We don't think that we just are and that everything's okay. That's, we don't. We're always thinking in terms of good, bad, right, wrong. And the world is built that way with all the rules and the laws and everything. This is all a construct of the God that rules the planet. This is not the God of a Jesus Christ type one or anything like that. That would be the opposite. That would be freedom. Everyone knows what is right and wrong. They don't need rules to tell them. They don't need anything because they already are. They would just automatically be living the correct way. That's what I kind of think anyway. But that's big. But that's only if you're at that higher level of spirituality or mental state. That's intellectually as well. That's everything. Like none of us are. We're all down here. I am too. We all are. There's a few that might be, but there's so few that they're not in positions of power. They do not rule. They're not figureheads of the religions at all, in any way. So we are all worshipping and I say worship because it demands worship. If you worship it, you will be rewarded perhaps materially, as I think that a lot of the people that you see on the planet that are doing rather well, they are all people who have worshipped this God and are rewarded for it. You can only be successful in this world, I think, if you worship the God that rules this planet. Now, if there is another creator, because obviously he's created this world, so he is a creator, and all human beings are meant to be creators too, by the way, but we have lost that power. We could create worlds too, but we do not think that. We live in the material world and we think we are ruled by the material world, so we have lost our power to create. But I believe that that's what the Jesus fellow was trying to say, was that the power is in us. We do have that. The God that controls the world is aware of this. He uses his power to full extent to create this artificial, man-made world that traps us into a kind of 3D material existence that actually is not really real and not our true thing, not our true potential, I don't think, at all. We've gone right from that to where we are now. But if you worship him, you will be rewarded in the material way on this planet. The only successful people on the planet are the ones that worship him. Now, you might say, oh, well, I know of a lot of famous rich people and they worship, that's right, they worship Christian God or some other God. But like I say, that God is really, the true God is at the back of all that God. So even if they are not directly know that they're worshipping a different God, they're actually worshipping in any way, because this is actually going to sound in a funny kind of way that this God that rules the planet is actually the true God. And he is the true God of this planet, this world. But if there is this force, which seems to be more negative if I look at the world, then there has to be perhaps another force that is, how should I say, if that's the malevolent force, then there has to be a benevolent force. But that does not exist on this planet. This planet is hell. This planet is the description of hell. Sure, and we do have sometimes fire and brimstone too. We just are not aware of it. Sometimes we actually physically have it when we have devastation in the natural sense. But basically it's hell in the sense that every human being is living in hell because they're tormented. We are all tormented all the time. We're tormented by everything that's around us. We're tormented by the need to strive, to live, to be better, just tormented even by the good and evil, the right, wrong all the time. We're tormented by the fact that we're trapped in this material world, that we have to obey this and that, and we have to, even the religion is a torment because we have to be aware of that religion all the time. We have to be aware of good and bad all the time. And like I say, it's a construct. It's very hard to explain, but if you can just get it, then at least it's distressing to know the truth. In fact, I wish I didn't know it. I wish I hadn't seen it, because it's like, oh, I know that I should be up here, but I'm down here. How do I get there? How do I get up there? I know that I'm trapped down here and I can see all around that there's no way of getting out of that trap. And we're actually more and more trapped every day. Like I say, we're worse off than 1,000 years ago. Much worse off. We think we're better. We think we're more superior. We think we've advanced. We have not. We've gone down. We're further off from the truth and further off from the attainment of being a higher, at that highest level that some of these people, if you want to say they existed, the Jesuses, those were at. These were human beings. If they existed, they were at the highest level. They were how all human beings were meant to be and should be. But in reality, as the centuries have gone, and the thousands of years have gone, they've gone further away from it. If you want to take it biblically, you could talk about, like I say, Garden of Eden and how we were tempted and went away from it. But either way, I'm saying that we not only ruled by whether we believe in it or not, we are ruled by the God that runs the planet, even if we don't believe in it, because we have to obey by their rules. The rules of the law and of the religion is on this planet. Every time you obey any rule or even think right or wrong, you are abiding by the law of the God that rules this planet, whether you worship him or not. And most people are worshipping him directly or indirectly. The people who worship directly are those that are aware that there is a God that rules the planet and are aware of all the knowledge, because most knowledge is kept from us, and it's been passed down, and a lot of it's been destroyed down through the centuries and the things, like even libraries and things I've heard of destroyed, the big libraries in the past. If you actually look at history, which I have only just recently delved into a bit of it, I wish I knew the whole history, then you would see whenever there's been the true information that it's all been destroyed, even civilizations, vast big civilizations, Egyptians, all destroyed. They had more. A lot of those races had more information and knew what the true gods were, of the true gods of this planet. Only of this planet, I'm saying, that rule this earth, that we worship, pray to, believe in, follow their rules, their laws, their right, their wrong, go to war, fight, destroy, in the name of all this. And some people are aware. They're very few number, like I say. They're like the ones that have reached the high level. They're few, and the ones that actually directly worship this know who the true God of this planet is. But there probably must be then an opposing force. But that force is completely denied us. And I think that maybe the Jesus people were trying to tell us that there is another way, but when I say another way, there could be another creator, and perhaps the creator of the human species that was created something good that was meant to rise to a high level of intelligence, spirituality, everything. I'm using words because I don't know, because I have not attained it. I'm like you and everyone else. I'm down here, but I think that it exists. And I'm saying that I think this has been denied us, and by the fact that but the ones who worship directly know this, and they have some powers because they have the knowledge that was deprived us from the true source, true creator that created us perfect, almost you could say, and where we were meant to develop those things, but we got hijacked, we got sidetracked, we got tricked, we started to worship a different God. When I say a different God, I'm using the word God because that's the word that we use, but I mean a different creator. Negative, not to where we would develop, though, unfortunately. And if we did, it would only be if we served this particular God. But in serving the God that rules the planet, we have to destroy. And we have to be negative. And for that we will be rewarded. Now, this sounds crazy. I don't think I'm getting it across. I'm not sure I fully understand it. I do understand it kind of, the concept. But like I say, if you are denied the full knowledge, and I can't say what the knowledge is but basically it means that it'd be like if you were really psychic but you didn't know you were psychic, and that would be denied from you. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like if you had the ability to read other people's minds and to transport thoughts and things, but you didn't know you could do that because that knowledge has been denied to you because you're not at the higher level that you're supposed to be at, then you would not be aware and you would not develop that. It would be suppressed and become dormant and stagnant, shall we say, and would even eventually die off, just like a lot of the good on the planet has died off. A lot of the personality of most human beings now is very ego, but not ego in a good way, because originally it would not have been a bad thing for the ego, because human beings, I think, at that kind of spiritual level would have just known that they were everything, all and everything, so they would not have had the need to prove anything or to compete with another human being because they already were everything. Oh, it's a bit hard to explain, So the humans on the planet now, we are all very ego. I know all my life I've been under the influence of this God that rules the planet, where you're not good enough, where you have to have success, where you have to do certain things. You always have to do something. You have to prove something. Most of my life, for 60 years, I was never happy either, because I was like, oh, everyone is better than me. I'm nothing and I'm nobody. I'm right down the lower social thing, which is even worse, because at least if you're halfway competing in this planet, you feel that you might be able to delude yourself that you're doing okay, which I think most people are. They're sort of deluding themselves that they're doing okay, whereas if you're right down the bottom of the social thing, it's very hard then in this ego-driven world to actually feel good at all. So you've always got that on you. Never sort of ever stop and say, hey, I just exist and I'm okay. And once you start to do that, you might actually be on the path to getting towards a higher thing. But you see, if you're living in a war-torn area, and like myself, where you're living in a minefield almost around you, you can't even get to that because you haven't even got the peace, even in the physical world, much less to get peace at a higher level mentally. So this is another problem. It's certainly a problem that I see. How could you possibly get to a higher spiritual level if you are in the middle of a battlefield? It would be impossible. And that's what this world is like. Human beings cannot get to the level that they're meant to get to because they're in a battlefield. I think that's why that Jesus said, be in this world, but not of this world, because he was saying that and I think that's why I'm so many people, I do know nothing about this man or this human that was here. But if you just picked a few tidbits of what you might think to be the true things that he might have said, then that makes sense, to be in this world but not of this world. Because if you're of this world, then you are in this war. You are going to be physically in this battlefield. Some people might think they're doing great, so they might say, oh, I'm not in this thing, but mentally they would probably still be, they might be happy because they're at the lower level, but they're materialistically satisfied and they're comfortable. So therefore, the rich people probably say, I'm doing great, but they're still not at a true. They're not at a higher spiritual. But most of us are not even in that lucky position. We're in a physically bad situation. So we really do have to not be of this world while being in it, because if we allow ourselves, and we can't help it, because if I've got bombs going off around me, which you literally have, I know I have, I'm using that figuratively, but if you've got negative stuff going on around you, whether it be, like really in a proper war-torn thing, or even if it's negative stuff in other ways, even if you're lucky enough to, at the very least, just be in a bad relationship, because I think that's probably the best, but even that can be so mentally distressing that you can never elevate yourself because you've got that negative. So you have to be in this negative situation if you are in it, whatever it may be, but not let it bring you down, not be of this world, like he was. And I think he was trying to say, because if you are at a higher level, you know that this world is all false, that it's all a construct, and that it shouldn't affect you really, because it does not really exist. It's all negative. It is a hell. So if you are in hell, you have to, in order to stay sane almost, because I believe most of us, yes, we're actually almost insane. I know this is the truth, and you might say normal is now insane, because if you are living in this kind of hell situation, hell world, and I don't think that anywhere except here it is this, but we think that we are, it's a bit like sometimes they say with the country where I'm, the lucky country. It's not lucky at all. How can hell be lucky? But if you don't have a comparison, and you think that just getting by and surviving is lucky, and being negative and having not, and being at the level of a cockroach when you're supposed to be at the level of a so-called God, then, we are even more deluded. But we are deluded because we live in the cockroach mentality. We think we are cockroaches, we live like cockroaches, and we think that cockroach is the highest level. We do not know that there are higher levels, because we've never touched them. You say, well, how do I know? Well, I'm piecing it together because I now see that the world that I thought was, cockroach, not too bad, that it really is. Once you start to go from a delusion of peace into a war zone, then you can no longer delude yourself. And I think that's true. And I think that, and if you are in the war zone and you delude yourself further that war is caused by some other person or some other race or some other thing, then you have fell into that you're never going to pull yourself out. It's only if you realise that that war that you're in, that battle, is nothing to do with your other fellow human beings, because they are like you. They are living at that cockroach level. They cannot see past it. They are of this world, and they are in this world, and they believe in this world. They are not like the Jesus type thing of be in this world but not of this world. They believe everything that is told to them. If they're told that their neighbour or some other person is no good, that person should be eliminated. They believe it because they think that is for the good, even though they know they're doing evil by eliminating that person. So it's very much a deception. We do worship the God that rules this planet, the entity, the power, and we can see it even in the physical human beings, that the powers do not do the right thing most of the time and mainly do destructive things in the name of always going for peace. Peace has never happened, and if it does happen, it will only be when they eliminate most of the human beings. Well, if you think that is peace, if you think that is, if there's going to be a few, there will be a few left, but they will be the gods. That's right. They will be the gods that we have worshipped. They will not be us. They will not be me. And they will not be you, most people. So this is the thing. This is how it is. If you are worshipping any religion because you are not worshipping what you think, it is if you are directly worshipping the God that runs the planet, which is a negative force, in a way, even though it has vast knowledge and knows everything, knows as much as the positive force, shall we say. That's how they do it. And some people believe that because it does rule the planet, and that it is the correct God, and it is the correct God of this planet. This planet is dominated by negative force, and that rules the planet, and that is the God of the planet. And if you want to stay on this planet, that is the God that you must worship. But don't be deluded into thinking that it's a Christian God, a Muslim God, a Buddhist God, a Hindu God, or any other God. It is one God. It speaks for all the religions. It does have all the power. If you worship it, you will be physically probably blessed in this actual existence. You will reach a higher level of intellect than you and me and people that are not worshipping it. So you would say, why is this God not openly exposed itself? Eventually it probably will. And most people will probably bow down to it. And rightfully so, because it is the God of this planet. But there will be a price for that, and not everyone will even be allowed to worship it, because there will not be room for everyone, only the select few. I know that even the Bible says many are chosen, many are called, few are called, few are chosen. Well, it is the same in this. Oh, jeez, I think I've confused the whole thing. I could say directly, I suppose, that, look, I suppose, okay, you can go back to the Bible if you want to. Good and bad. Satan versus so-called true God. Okay, we could go back to that if you want to. That's probably the only way it can be explained. So that really means that the satanic Lucifer type thing, this is the true God of the planet. This is the God that if you want to live here, you must worship. He rules. He has all the power. He has all the knowledge. He has all the intellect. He created this world. So he's the creator of this world. He did not create you and me, but he created this world. Okay? That's how I think. And until I find out different, which I may well find out different. If I find out different, I'll let If there's one person watching, I'll let that person know. Probably, if there is anyone listening, these people, the few that would probably, it's a bit like they say there's the echo chamber, they probably already know, because there's only very few people that actually seem to be aware, and I go along with it. I believe that they are right and that most of humankind is wrong. And when I say wrong, wrong in the sense that whatever they're doing, they're not directly worshipping their true God, even if they said, hey, I want to worship the God that created this planet. They're not really worshipping that. They are worshipping part of the so-called other good God, because maybe there's still something in a lot of this is why I say there must still something be good, or something in humans that to where this God cannot directly say, hey, bow down and worship me, because he clearly demands worship, whereas the other one doesn't. The Jesus Christ type thing, that consciousness, Christ consciousness they call it, I think maybe that might be it, I don't know. This is a different entity that may have created human beings. This entity, God, if you want to call it that, creator, does not demand worship from human beings, does not want worship from human beings. He just loves human beings and wanted them to be the same as him at the higher level, a piece of God, shall we say. Whereas the other entity that controls this planet, he's the material God of this world, and he created this world. And if you want to stay in this world, and you love this world, and you love this hell, then you worship him. And that's the choice that we have. That's what I'm saying. That's what I think is, and I could be wrong. Certainly, I'm a loser, because clearly, I'm one of the ones that are not liked by the God of this thing. So clearly, I'm not worshipping any at the present time. But I would say that, like Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar. So if you want to be of this world, and you want to be of the material world, and you want to and you believe in the system and this world and what it is, then you must worship the controller and the God and the ruler and the superior presence that does control this planet. But there could be an opposing force, like I say, but that is almost kept from humans, and we cannot even see it. Now, we have that choice. If you are happy here, you like hell, you love hell, you think you can make the hell your little heaven, then that's the choice that you make, and that is the choice that I think 9 out of 10 humans have made on this planet. They like the hell, they like this planet, they think that everything that is on it is good. They think that they don't look at it and see. They believe everything they're told. Don't forget that the entity. If you bow down to this entity that controls the planet, in time, if you are the few elect left, you should not worry about pollution and all the stuff that they put on. That is all to suss us all out and to make us make choices. If you in the perfect world of the future, which will be in the future, maybe, I think, if you believe that it's going a certain way, there will be a few left. I won't be one of them. Neither will, a lot of people, most people probably, but the few that are left will be then allowed a perfect world, because sure, they can clean up, because the God will be able to clean up the pollution, all the so-called rubbish that is put on, that we've helped to create, but basically we've been, we're part of, it's all to suss us all out. It's all like a test almost, you could say. I've already failed the test. But what I'm saying is we're all worried about all of that. But if you are willing to bow down to the God of this planet, then this planet will be yours, and it will be cleaned up. It could even be made whatever you want it to be, maybe. It will be, you will have to abide, though, by the laws and the rules of the God that rules the planet. If you agree to those and you don't mind those restrictions, those limitations, because you accept that it is the God. It's a bit like we're taught in Christianity. That's why I say it's not a true thing, because you can only get into so-called heaven, if you believe the Bible, by abiding by God's so-called rules and laws. I'm saying that maybe the true Creator doesn't have any of those restrictions, doesn't have any of those laws or those rules. But if you want to live on this planet and you like it, then you do have to live by the Lord God of this planet's laws and rules. This is the information that I've got, where I've watched a lot of stuff only recently, because I believe I have been controlled by everything that is on this planet for most of my life. For all of it, I have been in the box, and I was happy in it until it got to be a real war like Box 2. So it takes a lot to wake you up to what is a reality. While you're just getting by and you can still see what you think are some good things worthwhile, it actually has to become to where you're aware that is total hell, that you actually become aware of, oh, there is actually a choice here. But actually, once it gets into a real hell, some of us don't even have a choice. Like we're not actually going to be presented with even that choice of bowing down to the God of this planet. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that Jesus was supposedly tempted by the God of this planet, wasn't he? At some point, if you believe that story to be true, where so-called Satan or Lucifer offered him and took him up onto the hill after he, I think, had been deprived of food and drink for a long time or something, so he was pretty in a weakened state. That's right, you have to be in a weakened state. And he then offered him all the kingdoms of the world, the palaces, the riches. And he could have given it to him too, because it was his. It was his to give. He could have given that to Jesus. Jesus could have had what you and I would consider a paradise here on this earth. And he walked away. So that's interesting. I don't know what to make of that, what you will. But that's not how even Jesus' followers operate, do we, in this world? Like most people that go into the Christian churches and any churches buy into the material world and love it and think that it is their reward for being a good Christian. But it's interesting anyway. I picked a few things from a fella, Jesus. I shouldn't say a fella, that sounds very derogatory, because he was, if he did exist, he was a superior human being in every sense of the word, if he did exist. Now, I'm saying that he probably did exist, and he was then hijacked, his image, his words, into a Christian religion at the time, which was probably a different religion at the time, because they saw that some of their followers were starting to think different. So therefore, to keep that religion going, they had to use something that they saw as good benefit to keep that religion going. And that's when things went from one religion and were converted, I think, into Christianity. If you look at the history, I'm very vague on this, but I'm able to pick up on a few little things, and I'm saying, look at it. I think Constantine or someone then decided to go into Christian and use that figurehead and stuff, even though before that it had been some sort of pagan sort of thing. And I think that pagan, or I'm not sure what pagan is, but I think that's like the opposite. I'll have to look all these things up yourself. But either way, we now, I think, do worship on this whole planet. It's not a matter of worshipping even. The God that rules this planet, the entity that rules this planet, the creator of this planet, is not the entity of the religion he is a creator that says you do what you will. If you need to kill to survive, you kill. If you need to drink blood to nourish your body, to make it, you do anything for yourself, which is very much how a lot of people are living anyway. And they have the knowledge to know how to do all these things. So they use knowledge to keep the human body going, but they have to be destructive to do so. So in other words, if you follow this thing, if you followed it even directly and you actually knew the true God, you would have to do destructive things to keep yourself going. Now, this is the choice. So, but that's only if you directly do it, because in reality, most of us are being allowed to deteriorate physically and mentally. We're not even offered it. We're worshipping it, but we're not getting anything out of it. There's only a few that actually are worshipping the true God directly and actually benefiting from it anyway, even benefiting in the physical, material world that we live in. So that's interesting. But like I say, eventually, when there's a few left, they will benefit from that. But evidently, for what I can see, the God wants the like I say, if Jesus was tempted by this, that would have been like the prize. If he had not walked away from that satanic Luciferian offer, the devil offer, you could say, I suppose. See, there's all these words that we use for the creator of this planet, but and they're bad words because it implies something negative, and it kind of is in a way, because it is the opposite to the other creator. But that was the creator of man, not the creator of this world. I think this is what I'm putting together, but I could be wrong, because I know that we were also supposedly genetically altered by the creator of the planet. So we have that in us as well. So we have seeds of one creator and seeds of another creator in us. So we have what I would say, positive and negative. Now, if you worship the negative, you will prosper. If you worship the positive, you don't have to worship the positive, I don't think. You don't have to worship the positive. But if you do not worship the negative, because you do have to worship the negative in order to prosper. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm not sure if I'm getting it right. But we have the seeds of both in, because the negative force controller, God of this planet, has put his seeds into us too. Genetically altered at some point. Missing link, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I'm just saying, if you want to look at all these things, I think there's truth there. Take of it what you will. Because there is the missing link. We were remarkably pushed forward at one point. I do not think we were really pushed forward. We were pushed forward, but I do not think we were pushed forward in a positive way, because I do not think we were meant to be genetically pushed forward at that rate at that time. It's a bit like the technology now. You either see it as good or bad. Now, like if you see it as an additive, an enhancement, which was like what happened back then okay, you go with it. But if you see it as a negative, then you will be taken backwards, further back into less. So this is just how you have, this is a choice. And like I say, if you were directly worshipping the God of the planet, because he has not made himself fully known. He's there and we worship him, but we worship him directly at this point. At some point, maybe we will be worshipping him directly if he makes himself fully known. When the facades of all the religions are finally pulled down, when they say, hey, this is the real truth, and they show the true power of this God too, that will greatly impress people, because they will see there is great advancement there is great knowledge. But all this was given to us, don't forget. I think if you believe in the other creator of man. This was all originally given to us anyway. We already knew all this. We knew this and much more. So it is kind of funny that we will be offered the truth by the maker of this planet. I suppose this sounds funny. How could it be that we were created by one thing and that this planet was created by another thing? That probably doesn't make sense to most people. It doesn't make fully sense to me, but I think this is what is. But one created us as part of him, herself, shall we say, creator, because it's male and female, don't forget. Has to be, doesn't it? Because we have male and female. After himself, with a lot of knowledge, with everything given, and the other created this world. So why was something good that already knew everything put onto, is now in a world that is created by something different, and that did not create us after, did not, did not create us, well, didn't create us, but it's not after the Luciferian type thing, shall we say, that he did not create us, so we're not like a seed of him. But then again, I don't know, I suppose, this is very hard to explain because there's so much, it's so complicated, even for me. I'm trying to put it in a religious context because that's how most people function on the planet, rather than putting it into other entities that might be inhabiting and controlling this world but don't really fit into our religious concept of, God and Satan, or God and Lucifer as opposing things to because don't forget, evidently even Lucifer was once part of the original creator of man, supposedly, because he was, fallen angel, all that stuff, where he was part of God but rebelled against God, was going to take over God's kingdom, got arrogant, got egocentric, like us human beings are now, pretty much. We have now followed the Luciferian way of thinking to where it's all about us. We're at a low level. I know myself, most of my life I have lived just surviving for myself, and this is how the Luciferian have made the human beings, because that's what they thought. But the only difference is they do not care for me, they do not actually, because they are of a higher thing, they are of the God level. They kind of look down upon most human beings, unless the human being bows totally down to them. And that's taught in the religion too. So it's a very deceptive kind of thing. This is just keeping it at a human, Lucifer, God-like creator type level. And I'm not explaining it very well. There's a creator, there's Lucifer, and there's us humans. Obviously, there's much more. Obviously, this planet is inhabited by much more than just humans and a Luciferian type God. That's what we think, but that cannot be the case, because that's just this material world that was created by Lucifer for us to live happily in hell. Now, of course, they are trying to make this world less of a hell, in the sense that, but the only way that can be accomplished, the human beings do still have a spark of the original creator in them, even though they are under the total domination and bow down to Luciferian God. But they must still have a spark left in, because we should have been pretty much totally dominated and totally even annihilated in a way many, many, many years ago, but we keep indirectly fighting back. We don't know what we're fighting. But when they wipe us out with a world war or something and wipe out most of our population, the human beings will fight back with a baby moon. Lucifer don't like that. But that's the human kind of spirit. That's why I have a kind of belief in all this stuff, because it's like, but, you know, and they feed off that and they kind of like it, but at the same time it annoys them because they want to keep humans under their total rule, because it's their domain, it's their planet, they own it, it is theirs, it's not ours. They created it. We maybe could have controlled it, because if we had all the power and all the knowledge that we should have had that was taken from us, then we would know how to actually rule this planet ourselves, I guess. And it would be ours. And we would have no wars, no fight, there would be no animosity, there'd be no competition, it would be all just harmony, peace and advancement. It would be. And that's what we're tricked into. Well, we're kind of tricked into it in the sense that not all of us are going to be able to have it. In fact, most of us are not. Eventually, the few that bow down to the ruler, and even the Christian religion promotes this, because he said God wipes out people that are no good. He'll come back and he'll judge the good and the bad and all this sort of stuff. So it's all part of it. It's a minefield mentally. You know, like I could just drop dead right this very second thinking about it, because it's a minefield. Whichever way you look at it, you can't really win. The only way you can win on this planet is to actually bow down to the God that created and rules this planet. But in doing that you will have to, most people will not even be given that choice, because there's not room enough for everyone. They don't want everyone doing that. They only want the select few. Just as we're taught in the Christian religion that God will only want his select few. But that, I don't think that's actually true. I think that God wanted the God that created humans actually wanted every human being to survive and to be at the highest level, and wanted. But so this is what I'm saying. So this free choice that we're given is there for all humans now, and so from what I can see, most humans have made the choice to bow down to the God that created the planet. Now, like I say, the only thing is that in making that choice, I think that even in making that choice, most of them will not be given the opportunity to get to so-called heaven. In other words, they will not be given the paradise here on earth. Most will not, because there's just too many of them, and I do not think that the Luciferian God actually loves all human beings unconditionally like the original creator, because the original creator must have loved all human beings unconditionally, because he created after himself or herself, both. And so there was a kind of pride, I guess, in the creation. It'd be like me creating an animal that I created. I would love that animal. I would demand nothing of it. I would just lavish love on it. But the one that didn't create, they demand subservience and worship, because you're in their domain, and they don't actually love you unless you love them. The real creator does not demand anything or want anything at all. He just wants you to, I think, just wanted humans to be. And he'd already given them everything. So he was just like, oh, just be happy. And, unfortunately, and you'd say, well, why would he plonk us? Because I think we would then have to say, did he plonk us in this prison, this hell that is controlled and created by another God, by the opposing God, the God that didn't want anything to do with him, I guess. I guess if you want to take it biblically, I mean, I'm not saying it's true because I believe that it is. This is just me putting it simply. In reality, we are dealing with other entities completely, in all dimensions. If you want to look at it that way, I don't know about the dimensions, but I know that we are dealing. If there are other entities on this planet, if even humans are not all what they appear to be, and we're all different, I can't go into that now, but you'd have to look into it yourself. But just wake up to whether you like this world or not, whether you think it fits the religions and the concepts truly. That's all I'm saying. But would the original creator that created us and loved us and was proud of us, just thought, oh, I created, you're a part of me. Yeah, God is in you, part of me. I'm so proud of you. And would he have plonked us into hell? No. So obviously there's something's gone wrong there. That's, I think, common sense, isn't it? I do not know what's going wrong there, what has happened. I would have to take it from some other sources of information that maybe we were originally plonked onto an earth that was neutral, and that it was taken over somehow, or that it was totally destroyed. And we have then been set up in an artificial kind of replica of that world in some way. Because no, it doesn't make sense to me, even at any sort of level, religious, factual, if I want to take the information that I've got, that God would have created, that the original creator of us, I don't want to use the word God because God implies worship, and like I say, the original creator did not want us to worship him, did not demand anything from us. This is all what the God of this planet demands and expects and has to have. We could not have been put in this thing. Not unless it was some sort of test or choice to see if we could surmount it, shall we say? Advance more spiritually by doing... I do not know. That sounds bizarre to me, and it sounds almost a bit cruel perhaps too, so perhaps I do not think it fits with what I'm putting forth. So what I'm saying is that if you're happy with yourself as you are, and you think you have, and you like what you are, and you think that the world has got potential, and that perhaps we're headed in the right direction finally, then this video is probably not so much not for you, but it really means that you're probably making the choice to go along with the God, the entities, I would have to say really, but it could be dominated by a single force, but there would be minions and minions that control this planet. Not just humans, but it would have to be operating at other levels. You'd have to say supernatural, I guess, because that's the only word I can think of. Because if you're talking about gods and creators and things, you're not talking about just a physical world, are you? You're not, because what we see would be a very limited thing, would have to be. Whereas if you think that we just all come about naturally, by accident, evolution, nature, then what the hell have we got all these religions for? Because, you see, so it's all a contradiction. But then, of course, the atheists would say, well, okay, that's right, we did just evolve naturally and all this sort of stuff. But even that, there's a lot of holes to that. And it doesn't account for why everything is. I don't think. It doesn't account for the destruction of everything. It doesn't account for human beings destroying one another. If their nature and their intelligence and all the stuff that they say they have is true, they're not using it. They're directed in a different direction. So I don't think that even works at all. And also, if you really do realise that there is more to this planet, that it is not this simple little thing where we are bungling our way through. Even if it was just the 3D type thing where we are ruled by the presidents and the politicians and we vote even that seems like, if you look at it, it all seems like a big joke, doesn't it? Because most people know that they don't really want that it's been set up and they go along with it, but they know that they even see that they don't even know that even if they've got their one little vote, which means nothing, 1 in 8 billion, that they would even be electing that person that they don't know and that they know couldn't really give a damn about them anyway. Everyone knows that. So it's a joke. So how could we really think that we're not somehow controlled? We are. We're bowing down, even if we bow down to our local bloody community. We have all the rules and we go along with everything. We bow down to everything. We're controlled by everything. So you have to say, if we're controlled by little things, even at the small level, and then we look at the world and we know it's controlled vastly, and we can see that it's headed towards a much more, that every day things seem to be eliminated to where we're coming to a central focus point, like I say, to where eventually we will be aware. I'm doing a bad symbol here. I'm very sorry. That was accidental. Because I'm also aware of great symbolism in everything. Everywhere we look, everything we see. Symbols, indirect worship of the God of this planet, or direct worship by many people. And symbolism. And I've become aware of this because I've been shown it. And so I've checked it out. And I say, well, look, I don't believe it, but I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see if there really is the symbolism everywhere, if we really are being bombarded with our God all the time. And I have to say, yes, we are. I say our God because we're following his world. We follow his will, and he created this world. Long ago probably destroyed our original worlds, and so we have this one now. So I guess human beings still, even at a very individual level, and this is where we're failing, and this is where it all comes down to, and I've heard some people say this even on videos. Individually we're failing because individually we go along with the herd, and if the herd is directed and being directed down into a confined pen or yard, like you see sheep herded into a yard, then, that is what we are allowing ourselves to do. And we do follow because, and we were meant to be part of one another, so it's kind of a trick there too. So, but if individually each person was able to say, yes, I am going along with everything. I am worshipping and following the laws, the directions of this world. If individually every person realised this, or thought this at least, or at least said, hey, no, I don't go along with it, I don't agree with it, then, it would be like saying, no, I don't want to worship the God of this world that created this world even. Now, that's a choice. And I think it would be very hard for most people to do this, especially if they actually acknowledge that it is a God, that it is a control, that it has all the power and all the knowledge, if they really knew this, because it actually does. But it is not, it may not be a benefit for everyone. It probably will only benefit a select few. And it's so that's what it will come down to, and we will be headed towards that because as the population, even like I say, humans have fought back whenever they've been defeated or almost defeated, a war that wipes out a lot of people. They've had the baby boom and they've come back. There's something in humans that have that little spark that must come from some other creator, some positive force. And they don't even do it consciously, they do it subconsciously because it's not like the powers that be want to bring up. They will only bring up, make more humans if it serves the whole. And it no longer serves the whole, so the reverse would have to be true. So then there will only be less left, and if they are happy to keep worshipping, and more so if it becomes like to where more things get exposed, to where the true gods expose themselves, which I think will eventually happen in time, because a god does like to be worshipped directly. You know, indirectly has been great for thousands and thousands of years, but I think they would want to have the total control and the total worship, and that will eventually happen when they expose. And then humans will automatically, those that are left, will automatically worship and bow down and accept that, because they have to say, how could I not? Because that is, they will not only say that the entity is the true God because it created the world, which it did, but it also created them partially, should we say. I believe partially. Some people might even say, hey, they did create us. I don't think that. I don't think that. And if they did, they created something that became too powerful and then they had to modify it and keep it down, because otherwise they would not get the worship, because then we would have become kind of godlike in our own way. And that's, you can't have gods competing with other gods, you know. Not if there's one true one that created this planet for their purpose of mankind. See, the God that created this planet has a purpose for mankind. But if mankind thought they were gods, they might say, hey, we might not agree to that purpose. We might not want that same purpose. We might, but we might not too. I don't see how that we really could if we really look at things, but that's just my perception. If you like competing, if you like animosity, if you like destruction, if you like negativity, if you like a lot of deception, if you like a lot of lies, then this is your heaven. And I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me, but I think there is, because I don't fit into it, but God only knows where I'm going to go or what's going to happen to me, because I don't think that we're connected enough to get back to any source of the God that thinks so. We're almost obliged, almost desperate, having to worship this God, and eventually as time goes on, as we go more down that path, and I'm not going to go into what that path is, but I think I have it here in front of me probably. You know, like if we go, you know, we become intellectual and technical, we go down that path. Eventually we have to worship that God, because that we will not be, that we will have lost contact with any other source of creation, or any roots, or we will have lost contact. We will be at the intellectual level, spiritual level, whatever you want to call it, because I don't fully understand all these things. I admit that I'm completely ignorant and in the dark. I'm almost clutching at straws. Forgive me for sounding vague, because it's a minefield. It's a maze. It's trickery. It's so vast. Because if you've got a God that controls the planet and he has vast power, technically, physically, in every possible way, and you can't even see him, but you're worshipping him indirectly or directly, depending on who you are. Look, you can't even imagine the possibilities. And you basically don't know what's going on because you're not in direct contact. I think originally we were probably more in direct contact with the original creator. So so that this is even sounding religious, and I think there could be some kind of truth history in the religions in the Bible, because some of it's repetitive. I think they could see that this is the problem, is that like I said, it's a minefield, it's a maze, it's like there's so much truth meshed and thrown in with so many lies that to figure it all out is near impossible. And so you do have to, I think, the only reason that I can see some of this is because if you're living in a war zone and you are not used to it, you become made aware of the truth of what this world is. Now, to me, I really think, this is sounding very negative, and it is negative, and it is really negative. It is negative in the extreme, and I say it, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because I don't want it to be. We should be in a positive world, and that's what there again, we're pumped with all these lies. Oh, you've got to be positive, don't be negative. Oh, we can do this, we can solve that. We can't. We are trapped, we are powerless, and almost our only choice is to bow down to the creator of this world. And that will not serve all of us. That's all I can say. It will not serve all of us. It will serve some, and even that, I think, is up to debate whether even they are still at their very best. Maybe not, but they will do all right. Some of them do all right now, because directly or indirectly, anyone who is worshipping any religion is worshipping the God of this planet. And some of them have been benefited by it. They will be rewarded by it physically, like materialistically. And they probably feel quite happy, and if they've got any abilities, they'll be allowed to show those. They'll have everyone, even other human beings, looking up to them. Believe you me, they are selected. They are selected, and that isn't to detract from any of their abilities, because all human beings do actually have a lot more abilities, but their abilities, their gifts, sure, they have them. But if they did not worship the God, creator of this planet, even though it's not, I don't think it's the true creator of them, they would not be rewarded for their gifts or their talents. They would somehow, like in other words, if you were, and I could actually use examples. In other words, if I had some great gift, like if I had the great gift to be a great painter. Leonardo da Vinci did not just happen. He was a genius, sure, and he could paint this and that and all the rest. This is only what's occurred to me yesterday almost, because I've admired these people for a long time. If he had not worshipped the God of this planet, he would not have been allowed to exist. Or in the sense that even if he existed, like for instance, if he could paint the Mona Lisa, but he did not worship the God of this planet, I believe that his hand would have probably been stricken with arthritis like mine, so that he could not create that Mona Lisa, because if he did not worship the God, he would not be allowed to prosper on this planet. He might be allowed to still exist, but he would not be allowed to prosper and live a happy, good life on this planet. That's my opinion, and this goes for everyone. So, and that's not to detract from the talents, because like I say, these people do have the talents, but they are only allowed to prosper if they serve and worship the God that rules and that created, see, I give the credit, created this imaginary world. I say it's hell, but, for those people, they probably think it's heaven. It's not, of course. It's by comparison a heaven, or a pleasant place, a great place. In comparison with, say, my perception of my world, or maybe some other people's, and probably a lot of people's even, for all I know. I don't know how much most people would consider their world to be good, bad, heaven, hell, whatever. That's up to them to decide. But certainly if you look at the whole, you'd have to say that some individuals do all right, but the world as a whole, if you look at it as a whole, there's an awful lot of bad stuff that goes on. even natural disasters, where do they come from? Like that's when you've been naughty people, bang. Didn't serve me, didn't worship me, too many of yous. Goodbye. Only want my worshippers here on this hell planet. It'll only be heaven if you worship me. I rule, I created, I've even indirectly created yous, certainly transformed yous into what yous are. If you're happy with what you are, then you worship me. If you're not happy with what you are, figure it out. I don't know. I'm not telling people what to do. I don't even know what to do myself, because like I say, even if you become aware of these things, how do you even get to a better level in this world? Because if you're in hell and you're persecuted all the time with like I say, if you're in a war zone, how do you even mentally, like the man so-called Jesus said, be in this world but not of this world? It's impossible. Even though you want to ignore what's around you, even if you're just struggling to survive. How do you ignore pain? How do you ignore destruction? How do you ignore the fear? And how do you ignore all that anxiety and stress that is on you all the time? It's impossible. So you can't elevate yourself even to that level. I'm not sure how these people do it, the more advanced human beings, the Jesus consciousness, those ones. And there's very few of them, if you look through history, that have been able to do it. Supposedly, all humans have the potential to do it. That's what I'm saying now. But so we have the choice to live in this material world, which you could still live in the material world. Ideally, you could. I think that this should have been a playground to where we could have enjoyed the material things and had a great old time, but still been at a higher level. That's what I think. I think, why couldn't you have had both? That's what maybe we were meant to. But like I say, this world I think it must have been destroyed, because I don't think that we could have been put here into this, unless there's something I still don't know. If I find it out, if it's some sort of test or some sort of, but I can't imagine that. It contradicts a kind of loving creator that created after himself. Like obviously we still have choices. Every choice we make, like I say, every individual, if they make a choice between good and bad, but it's no good saying, oh, I think I'm making a good choice because my church tells me that I have to persecute someone else or kill someone else, because that's what happened to Jesus. He was persecuted and stalked and eventually eliminated. They kept tabs on him, like he was tracked all the time. This is 1,000 years ago. So it's no good saying, oh, I'm persecuting someone, or I'm destroying someone, or I'm killing in the name of peace, or in the name of my God, or the name of my good God. That's rubbish. That's where you are making a choice to deceive yourself, and you are certainly worshipping directly the God of this world, who likes those things and who says you can do what you like, it don't matter. There's no consequences. They even say that Jesus died for your sins and all this stuff, which I think is I think that is some sort of deception, but I don't know. I'm not going to go into that, because all this religious stuff, even with that, I've touched on it only because most people can relate to it, and because I think that, like I say, there's examples there of what I think maybe that humans are meant to have evolved. I mean, I think originally we already had all this right, but then it was taken from us. So now we had to evolve back to it, but we haven't evolved back to it. We haven't got it back. We've gone further from it. So, that's what I think anyway, and this seems to be the world. But like I say, humans still, I think that some humans still have a choice, and it's a hard choice. It's a hard choice. I can say that honestly. It's a very hard choice to make a choice to leave this material world, which is all we know and all we can see and all we can feel and touch and smell, and in the thin hope that something that we can't see, because we actually do see the God that rules this planet in a funny kind of way. We don't think we do, but we actually do, because we see his work and we see that he has the power. And some are in direct contact with it, to where they see the knowledge, because most of the knowledge and the information is hid from us. A lot of it's been destroyed down through the years too. So we don't really know our true history either. So it's a bit like, say we don't even know what happened 100 years ago most of the time. And we certainly only know what we see. And if you're talking about gods and controllers and rulers that have created everything, you're not talking about just a physical thing, someone who puts a brick on top of a brick. You are talking about supernatural type of stuff. You have to be if you're going to go into any sort of God realm. And hey, if you're the opposite to what, like I say, if you believe the opposite, that we're just this little soul planet with a few things, us pathetical human beings fighting one another all the time, plonked on a planet in the middle of a big universe, well, that's interesting too. That's what I believed for most of my life, But now when I have now seen some other things, I say, I don't think that's possible. That's just my view now, and that's after a lifetime of believing very much in what I only see, and only human beings, nothing else, no gods, no nothing. Only that to me was like, a very remote possibility. In fact, only something you might want to believe because you're frightened of dying, basically. You're frightened of losing this hell existence, even because that's all we've got. So even if it's bad, we have to say, hey, the death of that is the death of me. You think that's the death of everything, I'm going to leave it there because I've went on for too long. I haven't really got totally to the point, and I'm sure it gets confusing to me. I should have it all figured out, written down perhaps, but I just, I don't really particularly enjoy making those things. It's stressful, well, there is information there for people, but you'd have to go away from what you've told quite a lot, I think, to actually. But at least you should try and have an open mind and try and look at it, and then make a choice. Like I say, everything is still every individual's choice. Every little decision you make every day is all our choices. My life has been like that, made all wrong choices because you're directed to make wrong choices most of the time. Wrong thoughts are put into your head all the time. And you think it's truth. And you have to make that choice. You have to say, do I believe this? Do I think it's right for me? Do I think it's right? Is it really me? I don't know. I wonder I think human beings, we're all so confused, we wouldn't know what really is us even anymore. We really don't. I don't know half the time. I'm like, who am I? Am I just my name? I know I'm not that. Even that's put onto you. It's given to you by parents or this or that. Look, I'm trying to laugh because if we could all laugh, we'd at least, then you do unite in a common thing. And I think that we've ceased to do even that a lot of the time. We try to. Look, I know there are still a lot of genuine human beings on the planet, but they're guided by forces that they think are good, and they think they're doing the right thing. Every time you jump on a cause in this world, you think you're doing the right thing, but where are all those things coming from? I don't think that we know where we're being directed, driven, guided, like I say, like sheep into the pen. There's only that odd one that decides to go out, and even they're ostracised. It's like myself, you end up where you're in no man's land. You want to go along with even things that you don't think, that you know are really not right, because otherwise you're ostracised, and you're like, hey, what in the hell, I can't live like this. It's certainly not living. It's not living at all. In fact, that's the whole thing. Human beings are meant to enjoy this experience, this thing, and most of us are not. We can't, because we're struggling all the time. We're told how to live. Even the jobs we do and things, everything we do is like, we're not free at all. Like I say, if you think, well, okay, you're safe, but you're not free. Look at all these things, things that people think. I say, personally, I just say, well, if I'm not safe but I'm free, then this is different to how I've thought for a lifetime. because I've always been a very timid person, very frightened, very worried about, like even now to be in a bad physical state, to have a lot of physical things wrong, and to always been timid about other people and about authority and about power. Look, to then now say at this late stage, hey, without the freedom, it's one thing to be safe and to be free. You can't be safe these days and be free, I don't think. So that's the choice that people are making. They're saying, I'd rather be safe, but I'm going to give up all my freedom. And I think once you give up your freedom, though, you're not going to be safe, because then you are at the mercy of everything, aren't you? Because you can't be safe if you don't have any control over anything, can you? I mean, yeah, but if you worship the God of this thing, then you might be okay, like I say, but that's a choice too. So, but like I say, I don't think the vast majority are going to actually be able to do that. But at any rate, I hope that you followed what I was trying to say. I know I haven't probably put it very well. I hope I haven't wasted your time. I don't think I've wasted mine, because it weighs heavily on me, and time is short, so anyway, say goodbye, and let's all try and make a few better choices, I guess, because some people might have more freedom than me to be able to at least make some choices, and like I say, if everyone made the right choices, I think a certain amount, then once you make the right choices, then you are free to make other choices. And maybe then you can decide, yes, do we want to worship what God we want to worship, or whether we don't want to worship any, or what. But at the moment, we don't really know what we're doing, is what I'm saying, because, we are not acting on total free will, which was the one thing that we were given and that we were supposed to still have, but I don't think we do have much of it, because I really don't think we do. I think we like to think we do. We don't like to think that we're trapped and that we have no free will, and we like to think that we, even in the smallest ways, run our planet. I think if I can walk out my door, that I'm free. I'm not. Not at all. And if people just looked around and see it, even, I don't know how much people can really see, but if they look around, and they might be able to see it even at a very personal level, hey, maybe even if you say, oh yeah, I think I'm still free, because they're not doing the same thing to me that they're doing to someone else. I'm not in trouble. I'm not restricted this way. I've got this. But still, look around at other people too. Don't just look at yourself, because you might be living in delusion land, to where you're let a little bit more free, to where you think you're more free. But just look around, because whatever you see happening in the world, or even around you, that is your world, and that can and will happen to you eventually. Maybe not today. So that's all I'm saying. So do not think that because, even if you're doing all right yourself, that means that it's okay to ignore someone else not doing so well, particularly if it's something that you are a party to, or that, because we all have created, indirectly or directly, every time we say yes to something or no, that is what we are choosing. Or even if we let something go, we've chose that. Because if you just ignore something, that's the same as saying yes in a way. I mean, I've done that quite a lot of my life. I've always been a fence sitter and think, hey, but I didn't have anything to do with that if it turned out bad. But just by ignoring something, you've let it go, you've said yes. So, but anyway, I'm being a real know-all when I really know nothing. And it's only that I think things have got very bad, and I can't see them doing an about turn that I'm saying this. I feel very very distressed by it and very, not optimistic, but I want to be optimistic because there are other people that hold some of these similar views, but they at least are optimistic. I actually aren't. And I want to be optimistic. I want to see some glimmers of hope. Every time I start to look around and see a little glimmer of hope, I see that it's just a diversion, a delusion, that it isn't. Look, you've only got I really think we've only got the two choices. You either take a big chance on nothing that you can't see, and where there's no material thing in front of you to see it. So that's kind of like saying, oh, there is some so-called divine presence that created or something, and you can't see it in any way. Whereas the God that created and rules this planet, you can see at least some of it, and maybe you might, as time goes on, that presence might be made more. So you're probably going to go with the God ruler of this and creator of this particular earth. That will be how most people will go, those that are left, because that will seem the logical, and it will seem the only choice in a way. I just wonder if it is, that's all I'm saying. Because in light of what we've looked at down through the centuries, what has always happened? It looks, really, if you look at it, it looks as though, if you look at the whole planet, there seems to have always been more negative going on than positive. That's all I'm saying. And anyway, got to close down now. This is about as much energy as I can expand into it. Good day, good night. Best for all.